Welcome to Battlefield 6 weapon loadouts, where today we'll take a look at a pair of Vietnamese rifles. The STV series of rifles are based on the Galil ACE 32, modified to handle more like the classic AK-47 series of rifles the Vietnamese armies have been using up to that point. Luckily for us, the NVO-228 is based on the same pattern of ACE rifle, a high damage assault rifle that quickly drops to the same minimum damage as typical 5mm ARs in the game. For our first STV, we'll take a look at the STV380. Simply put, the number is the length of the barrel. So that being said, the closest option we can get to the 380mm barrel in game is the factory 409mm. So next up, since the smaller barrels often offer more mobility, we'll change up the ammo to make up for the barrel being a little longer than we need. So to compensate and to give us the mobility we deserve, we'll use the polymer case rounds instead of the usual FMJs, just to give us the feel of having the even shorter barrel. While the fluted barrel is an option, most infantry rifles don't sacrifice their barrels with a thinner option. Mixed with the penalties of running a thinner barrel in-game, I think running the normal barrel with lightweight ammo to be a better alternative for this loadout. Following this, for the STV380 is the sight. The Aimpoint Pro is the optic commonly seen on the rifle, but since we don't have access to that, the most visually similar optic on offer, according to me, is the 3VZR 1.75x red dot sight. Though not as clean as other red dot sights, its smaller frame and 1.75x zoom does give us a slight zoom compared to the default iron sights. Of note, while the loadout reference picture used for this particular loadout included an underslung grenade launcher, that option is not available in game. So for that reason, we left the underbarrel option blank, which means the hefty recoil of the NVO might lead a lot of your shots off target unless you tap fire, especially with the recent changes at the start of Season 3. Lastly, we'll keep the default flash hider since the Vietnamese army kept the default option and didn't adopt a suppressor, brake, or compensator for the rifle. As mentioned before, there's no real downsides to the flash hider as it hides you from 3D spotting when shooting your rifle, but remember that this doesn't hide you from 2D spotting. Another default option that we will be keeping is the 30-round magazine. So that's our first build, one that gives us a good and simple rounded general infantry weapon. A good rule of thumb for this loadout is to use the 3-shot kill to your advantage. With a red dot sight, you do have the option to reach out to farther targets than with the iron sights, but with a faster drop off and minimum damage, plus the heavier recoil, this loadout does scream to be aggressive and close to the action to take advantage of that damage. Outside of that, your best bet is to tap fire or switch the weapon to semi-automatic to negate any disadvantages this loadout causes from the lack of a foregrip. And now for the 2-for-1 second version. We'll be taking a look at the STV380, which, unlike the 380, is a variant geared towards protection and guards. And the 022 isn't the barrel length like our last build, but simply the year of adoption, 2022. One glaring issue that we need to address is the lack of stock. Sadly, we can't remove the stock in Battlefield, but moving past that, we can still mimic the attachments on offer. With the stock kept, this is more of an STV022 loadout, but with a stock, means that it functions more like a hybrid of STV215, which is more for vehicle crews. Like I mentioned, the barrel size is 215mm. We will remove our default 410mm and switch it out for the 409mm cut. This option cuts down the barrel to the ACE-31's 210mm barrel option, which is just a little shorter than the 215mm we need. This effectively takes the assault rifle and converts it to a compact carbine, with added hipfire performance at the cost of bullet velocity, which for the role we're meant to take on with this second loadout isn't a major issue. Since our barrel is now shorter than what we need, we're no longer forced to mimic the lighter weight with the polymer case rounds. So for that, we will just switch to the default FMJ, which fundamentally are identical just without the added mobility buffs and higher cost. So for this loadout, we'll also be dropping the 3VZR in favor of the traditional iron sights. While we do lose open sight picture and the added zoom of the red dot sight, the main role for this loadout means we don't lose much since iron sights at close range is more than adequate for the job. Now instead of replacing from our first loadout, we get to add to it. With the lack of stock, a quick way to regain stability while firing is to add a grip. While I fought hard between which grips in-game is closer to the references used for this loadout, the one that was ultimately closest was the Alloy Vertical, a choice that gives us a boost in precision and control while also lowering the amount of recoil we get from our first loadout. This is a double-edged sword since we get a boost in stats that would make our loadout better for longer ranges, but that is nullified by us having the shorter barrel. The next addition is a new attachment option in game, the ADS tack light. The references used refer to the flashlight on the rifle as a tactical light and looks to be right in front of the grip. Of course, this could still be a normal flashlight, and modifications like pressure activations that are hooked up to grips are not uncommon and would make sense if you want the ability to turn on the light while a threat is already engaged and you have mere seconds to react. In simplest terms, this attachment means that every time you ADS, the light turns on, and while moving, it switches off, and makes it so that you won't have your position given away while moving, and will also give you the ability to blind opponents in close quarters, which this loadout wants. Just remember that even at longer ranges, it'll still flash every time you aim and can give your position away to enemies with long-range precision rifles. The last change we'll be making is to the magazine. The STV380 doesn't have the standard 30 round magazine. As much as using the 15 round magazine would be a lot of fun, the only option that is in game and also used in real life is the 20 round magazine. Even though losing 10 rounds isn't great, the hybrid damage model where we get 33 damage means using the 20 round magazine has a very similar playstyle to the 417. The downsides are negated with a faster ADS speed, as well as faster handling, which for a loadout that is meant as a close range protection works out very much in our favor. So there you have it, our second build. One that compacts the loadout and specs solely into moving quickly and keeping the engagements as close as possible. Even the iron sights, which aren't the cleanest, forces you to get close. The smaller barrels also gives you better hip fire, which also helps out in close quarters. Funny enough, that our closer range build would make our general rifle do a better job. While both options offer a different playstyle, a third option would be to mix and match parts of both builds to better suit the needs of that playstyle. Adding a 3VZR to the STV380 or the alloy grip to the STV380 are both options. But since we're basing our loadouts on references, we have to adapt within that framework. The NVO is a strong close-range weapon with its high damage, which meshes well with the 215 022 loadouts, as it really puts more emphasis on being close, blind people, and shredding them with high damage. The recent tweaks to automatic weapons makes longer range a little harder, but not impossible. The 380 loadout allows us to hit farther out with proper tap firing and can reach out to a surprising distance. Just be warned that the hefty recoil will still make many shots miss. The addition of a red dot sight means you get a clearer sight picture to help out with those targets. There's something to be said about the compact nature of the second loadout that just feels different to the normal traditional first loadout. Both are equally usable and offer a good variety of playstyles between the two. So remember, whether you're defending your country from imperialists or VIPs during important events, use this updated legacy rifle based on a classic workhorse to protect those who are dear, and when those are being threatened, the bad guy ain't no fortunate one. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time for another Battlefield Loadout.